I think you're muted, Vibha.
Yes, I was. Sorry about that. I'm just going to quickly start from the beginning. Is my screen still visible, Vaich?
Yes, yes.
Yes. All right. Shall we give it a minute and then begin, or how shall we do this?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are joining. We're gonna give a couple of seconds more.
Because I can't see anyone joining. So
You can actually, on the participants, you can see the attendees who are joining.
yes, okay. Yeah. I think we should give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Couple of known faces, couple of new faces.
Oh, yes.
I think we can get started. No, Vibha?
Let's get started. All right. Yeah. Great. So hi everyone. We're so happy to welcome you to Facilio's first webinar of this quarter and of course this year as well. I'm Vibha and I'm going to be your host for this evening. And if you guys have attended one of our webinars before, you know how this is going to go. But just so we're all on the same page, I'm going to quickly run you through exactly how this webinar is going to be. So we first have a 20-minute panel discussion where Vaishnavi and Vishak, both seasoned professionals in the prop tech space, are going to quickly take you through what workflow automation is all about and how exactly you can actually transition away from your manual and broken O&M processes and really help streamline your current operations. And then after that, we will have a 20-minute Q&A session. So please be active, engage with us, and really ask us the questions that you would like your answers for. We're happy to tell you everything that we really can to make sure you have the best ways to tackle all of the issues that you're currently facing. And as a quick manicuring thing on the side, I'd like to inform you that we'd have all the participants muted. And in case you are not muted, I request you to be on mute. And of course, all the slides and the recording of the session will be shared to you after the session is done. So feel free to just sit back and enjoy what we're going to tell you. We have a lot of really good content planned for you guys today. And on that note, I'm going to quickly take you through the agenda. So first, there'll be a quick intro to Facilio that I will do just for a few minutes, and then I'll give it over to Vaishnavi, who's going to take us through why it is that workflow automation is important to us at all. And then Vishak will, of course, as our solutions architect, take us through some of the use cases that Facilio has helped solve and how Facilio can help you guys achieve all of the goals that you might have in mind to really help streamline your current operations. And finally, of course, as I mentioned before, is the Q&A session. So yes, in case you guys don't know this already, Facilio is a really cool property operations platform that is a cloud-based network. So we help you aggregate your data. We, of course, streamline your operations, and we really help increase efficiencies all the way from the boardroom to the boiler room. That is for all the stakeholders involved in your current organization. We're powered by AI and IoT, and we have a lot of industry expertise to really help you get to where you need to be, in the modern day, and get you to all the goals that you would like to achieve. Our most exciting announcement for today and yesterday has been that we have finally gotten our Series B funding. And it's a really important moment for all of us. It's a great milestone that we've achieved. And we think it really just serves to prove that Facilio is helping so many people all over the world to really help grow. And yeah, we're excited to see what the future has in store for us in PropTech. And on that note, I'm going to give it over to Vaishnavi, but just 1 second before that, in case you guys would like to also have any resources that you would like to access, whether it is on other things Facilio has on offer for you, what ways you can really help, modernize your current operations, the tech resolutions that you might need to keep in mind for this year and for the upcoming quarters. We have resources in plan for you, and we can share these with you post the session, and you have access to this at any point. So if you'd like to have links to these, let me know and I will, of course, give them to you. On that note, Vaishnavi, you have the floor. And yes, please tell us why it is that workflow automation is something that all of us should really have in mind when it comes to property operations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vibha, for the introduction and great start. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. So we wanted to talk a bit about, Vibha, can you give me the control of the screen for a minute? Yeah. So, so we want to talk a little bit about this new world that we are all in today, right? So I have a couple of stats here from the Deloitte Commercial Real Estate Reports 2021-2022. And what we learned is that the left one is actually from 2020, I think. Around 82% of survey respondents agree that the pandemic revealed issues surrounding technology and digital transformation in real estate. And a closer look shows that the majority of the struggle was around defining digital workflows, right? And as a response to these tech issues, about 47% of stakeholders across the globe, they actually started redefining their business and operational processes to accommodate the digital tools that were already available to them, in an attempt to, optimize for faster, cheaper, and more efficient work. So this is the latest trend, and we are all aware of it. We all know that property operations is changing, and support for these changing process is an important part of the landscape. But before and next, I want to talk a little bit about how do we choose the right tools for this new world. But let me cue Vibha in again to run a quick poll in the beginning, to also get your views on how these processes are changing and have changed the post-pandemic. Vibha, can you please launch the first poll?
So everyone on your screen, you are now going to see a poll. Please feel free to, choose exactly which options match your current predicaments. I see we have someone who's raised their hand. In case you guys have any pressing concerns, feel free to, of course, message me personally on the chat. And otherwise, you have a Q&A portal there that you can also add your questions into, and we'll be happy to take them. Oh, wow. I think our second option is winning, Vaish.
Oh.
Yes, it's in the lead. I do encourage everyone to participate because this is such an important way for us to gain insight as to how workflow automation is really changing the way we're all able to conduct operations today in a post-pandemic world. All right. I think I'll wait for just a second more and then we can share the results. Yes, Vaish?
Yeah.
Yeah? Awesome then. Great. So I'm just sharing results. Yes, as everyone can see, workforce productivity is stretched thin for everyone. And I think, Vishak and I had a conversation about this earlier as well. And this is something that I think workflow automation is so important to help tackle because it increases productivity for smaller teams. And of course, Vaish, back to you again. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah. So again, this is in line with what I was talking about, where collaboration, productivity, and time lost in manual tasks is one of the key changes post-pandemic, which has got the limelight of sorts. But when we have to talk about, how do we choose right tools for this new world? The key driver here is to, stop playing catch up, and move to a position where you have all of the levers to, constantly optimize or create standout experiences, basically break from the pack. Right. And there's also a push for automation of workflows that are manual, repetitive, and error prone. So it doesn't necessarily depend on people physically being there, which means you now have resources you can mobilize elsewhere. And this was true even for the old world, and more so in this new world, where every minute spent on these tasks is time and resources lost on creating revenue or value for your clients, right? And what we are focusing on here today is especially tools that are built with automation and automation tech, that allow your operational capabilities to expand without having to be limited by what the tool provides. And the stats here show that people who have got this core tech infrastructure right are more likely to plan for further digital investments or advancements, right? And having the right core technology with workflow automation capabilities is important. Yeah, which brings us to here's what's the challenge in achieving the said digital advancements, right? The current CMMS model is flawed, and we have been talking about this before, and I think the industry is also starting to feel like our narrative is putting a pin on their frustrations since so long. So the CMMS, which was predominantly seen as the asset and maintenance management tool, and then there are a number of other functional needs that your teams are solving with various other methods or tools outside of CMS. And people are starting to ask this question of why the CMS can't help interact with their clients or vendors, or why do I need a separate tool for reporting and analytics, and why can't I automate maintenance based on equipment conditions? And people, I think, at a point want to stop doing most of the work outside of CMMS. This is again a start from our previous webinar, which shows that the different methods that people are using to offset the current CMMS limitations, which makes automation like really important in these times, because it makes automation an important criteria for evaluation. Because see, you don't do you want to work with a system of records and then do all of the action powerhouse, which includes your decisions, your feedback and communication, all of the real O&M actions outside of the CMMS? Or do you want to enable a cohesive system of action, which can be established by your workflow automation capabilities? And the primary risk working with this model is keeping these multiple systems in sync, right? Which is an important problem that we solve. Like, we can't have a CMMS that just has your work orders, then your invoices are in an accounting software, and you need a manual intervention to feed it back into the CMMS once payments and approvals are done. Especially where you are today, you can't afford to have your technical jobs and on-site issues waiting just because someone didn't update, the payment status on the system. So much is lost in translation when all of the systems, process, and people are not connected. And that's exactly why all of this needs to be automated, right? And our platform helps exactly do that. And this is what it looks like in a connected CMMS solution, where the supplier has the quote information right out of Facilio. He or she, can immediately know when a quote is approved, and technicians are sent as soon as the payment is processed, and business happens as usual. So, and there are multiple benefits in having a CMMS that can automate workflows, and the obvious ones are time, money, and energy saved. But I'll let our solution expert here, Vishak, to explain that in detail with real case studies showing how we were able to automate various operational use cases. So each of you can take away what resonates to your portfolio needs. Over to you, Vishak.
Thanks, Vaish. Thanks, Vibha. So I'll quickly share my screen here. I think Vaish, you might have to stop sharing. Just 1 second. Perfect. So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you, Vaish, for that sort of intro on why workflow automation is important. So we're going to be talking about a couple of use cases and case studies which we have implemented over the last few years at Facilio that has a huge impact in terms of improving workforce efficiency, reducing costs, and just streamlining overall O&M at scale. And the way we're able to do that is through the Facilio architecture. So this slide really breaks down the key layers of the tech stack that we were able to use to sort of deliver these savings, right? So today we're going to be focusing on the sort of second layer here from the bottom, which is the workflow orchestration piece, where we're able to automate different processes that are currently happening manually, bring in real-time visibility, automate reporting, etc. But there are also other layers, as you can see here. The first step always to automation is to first digitize and sort of bring in all these stakeholders, all the different assets, the different properties that teams are managing right now into the system. And then we can also, the third level up, bring in the various stakeholders and sort of enable interaction seamlessly between these people. And we can also then contextualize this and bring in real-time information from these building systems to IoT. So this is the overall Facilio platform and how we're able to sort of reimagine buildings through the Cmms that we offer. But today we're going to be focusing purely on the workflow automation element. So on that note, I'll just Q and Vibha here to run a quick poll on some of these use cases that we've seen so far and how they might resonate with the team on the call today.
Thanks so much, Vishak. So yes, this is another exciting poll that we have, and this will kind of maybe give you a preview as to some of the use cases that we're going to be discussing. So feel free to, as before, choose the options that match your requirements the best.
This is going to be an interesting poll because I think this is going to set the stage for the use cases that we're going to discuss, and it'll be really interesting to see which one of these are seem to be the most problematic right now.
Also, guys, since there seems to be a bit of confusion, the recording for the session and the slides will be shared with you after the session is over. So if you guys would like to have that information with you along with the resources, do feel free to hang out and watch out for that email. I think Vishak, vendor processes seems to be leading here. But yes, all of the above is close behind as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All right, we'll give it about a few seconds more, and then I think we can share the results. I do encourage everyone to participate in case you haven't yet already. Okay, so I'm just going to share the results, Vishak.
Okay.
As we can see.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's a tie between all of the above and vendor processes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that gives us a good feel for the real challenges that the teams are facing right now, especially like in the previous poll, we also saw that the sort of resource crunch is a major issue right now.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these manual processes can really take a toll within the teams today. Well, perfect. I think this gives us a good sort of place before we sort of jump into the use cases next. So
yeah, and definitely, I think it's also great to see that all of the use cases mentioned here seem to be something that people are experiencing. So yes, on that note, back to you, Vishak.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about 4 key use cases today. And I think these are what we highlighted in that poll as well, and vendor processes being one of them. So the next slide here is our first use case, and this is about an FM company in the Middle East. And what we've done for them is basically automated a lot of their quotation processes that are going on right now. And that you can see has translated to a huge improvement in SLA adherence and a good improvement in their workforce productivity as well. And so if I get into the actual problem that they had, as a property management company and an FM company, they were managing interactions between landlords and their downstream tenants and occupiers within the property. So whenever somebody raised an issue, technicians had to go to the site, find out if this was covered within the AMC or not. If it was not, they had to create a quotation, which was most likely the case. And this quotation process was done over Excel. And once this was created, it had to be sent for approvals, not only internally within the organization, but also externally to their associated landlords. So since they were managing a huge portfolio, who had multiple landlords and multiple stakeholders that to interact with, this was a really arduous process. And so you can see that the Excel code is printed, it is sent over email, and then internally they had to sign it off and then forward that email. And that landlord had to physically print it out, sign it, scan it, send it back to them. So this was the process that was happening for their quotation approval before Facilio. So after Facilio, what we were able to enable is really streamline the actual process itself, where a technician is able to generate a quote directly using the mobile application on the field. Based on the cost of the quote, we're able to send it to the right stakeholder for approvals, and we have real-time SLAs being applied, notifications being sent out. So what did this actually enable for the team? So before the automation that we did, there was a lot of Excel and email-based cadences, and this was a very manual process. Quotes got stuck in approval for a long period of time. So a lot of times these work orders were delayed, and I'm talking delays in weeks, because the people did not know that they had an email that they did not read. And this is also a waste of technicians' time. Technicians are very expensive administrators, and for them to really quickly create a quotation on the field and send it out was very important to them. So what we were able to enable through the platform is to, one, heavily automate the creation of the quotation based on the tasks that they did on the field, based on inventory or spares that they're going to associate with that quote. And we were able to automatically send it to the right stakeholder internally and externally for approvals based on the cost. And this was able to increase the productivity for the technicians, is able to reduce the time taken on the field. And the actual approval process was also streamlined, because they were able to send out notifications to these people over SMS, over email, so they're able to quickly get their sign off. The landlords are able to sign directly on the app itself, and it made it really simple. So there was no paper-based delays. So how it works is through the Facilio workflow automation engine, right? So we're able to create unique business processes like this within the Facilio platform. It's completely low-code, drag and drop capabilities, and it really enables different teams to interact with each other really easily and automate these sort of processes. So you can see here that within this process, the quotation is created, it is sent for approval, it's being signed, and all of these are just different steps that we can digitize and drag and drop into this sort of workflow builder here. And for each step, we can define who it should be sent to as a notification, who has to be associated with approving that particular step of the process. We have real-time SLAs being applied. We have a time sort of a tracking for every step. So we're able to have visibility overall in terms of what is being delayed, and then we can apply SLAs to it. And the creation of the quotation is also really simple. They're able to use a sort of web-based UI and a mobile application to create quotes, and just clicking that send for approval button automatically, the platform was able to decide who it has to be sent to based on the cost. And we were able to define everything within the platform really easily. So that is really the power of the platform here within this particular use case. So on to the next one, right? So this second use case is talks about how we're able to automate the processes from a detection of an issue within a particular asset till resolution, and how this has impacted this particular CRE owner operator in terms of dramatically reducing breakdowns and therefore increasing asset health. And it's able to reduce the downtime of that particular asset. This, of course, improves occupant comfort and occupant experience within their properties. So this is the previous process that they had, and I'm sure people on the calls are aware that there's a separate DMS. It's in every building. And BMS creates multiple alarms for every single issue that it detects. So it's too hot, it's too cold, low pressure, high pressure. Every single symptom of a fault is triggered as an alarm. And so each of these alarms were then being created as work orders. So there was a huge number of work orders that their maintenance teams had to manage. And they had to manually interface between the BMS room and their FM teams, because they just had to make phone calls. There was no sort of system in place to merge these two stakeholders together. And these work orders had to be assigned manually, technicians had to be deployed manually. And this was a really sort of difficult, time-consuming process. And by the time they were able to go to the site and figure out what went wrong, and when they tried to fix it, it took them a lot of time. It was rarely a first-time fix. And this caused a lot of discomfort for occupants as well. And so what we were able to do is we were able to automate the process of identifying what not just the problem is, but also what the root cause of that problem is. So if it was too hot or too cold, we can identify the root cause, that, like we'd say, a VAV is malfunctioning, and that is a reason for the fault. The technician is able to directly go to the site, know exactly what spares they have to use to fix that problem, and they're able to complete it in real time as things happen. So what this helped enable was, one, before the automation that we did, there were a lot of work orders that were being created. So there were a lot of skewed KPIs. The management teams were able to make decisions in terms of what assets need to be refurbished or replaced, because there were a lot of work orders, and the asset health was dwindling because there were a lot of issues that it took a long time for resolution. So they were in a faulty state for a very long time, and just took a lot of time for people to actually complete these activities. So what we were able to do is then, through the fault detection capabilities of the platform, is to automate that entire process from fault detection till resolution, bring in real-time notifications, root cause analysis, and we're able to therefore reduce the site visits that technicians had to make, remove the sort of ambiguity in identifying what the actual problem is and what they have to fix. So they're able to go there with clear understanding of what they have to do on the site, and they're able to come out and complete that activity quickly. And this, of course, improve the actual KPIs and asset health as well. And the way we're able to do that is through our sort of fault detection diagnostic rules that we're able to apply, and we're able to identify the root cause directly using the platform. And this is then sent along with that work order to the technician. And we also have capabilities in terms of automating severity changes, sending out notifications based on that. And we can also automatically close work orders. This was another thing that we realized was important, because FM teams are using a separate system to manage the maintenance activities. The BMS control room were separate. So once a technician completed that work, that actual activity, and the BMS control room were just completely sort of separately switch it off in terms of the alarm and resolve that alarm, and then the technicians had to close that work order separately. But we were able to automatically close the work order when the underlying issue was resolved. So these are also just small advancements that we can make that have a huge impact in terms of the operations itself. So this next use case is that actual vendor processes use case that people seem to vote a lot for, and it's about how a client in Australia was able to dramatically improve tenant satisfaction by bringing vendors onto the site in a much quicker fashion and resolve activities in a much streamlined manner. So if I get into what the actual problem statement was that tenants raised complaints through a separate system. This was then had to be triaged internally by their teams, and they had to switch between multiple systems because they had a separate vendor repository within Yardi, and they had vendor compliance information like insurance documentation, warranty contracts, etc. within SASE, which is a separate system. And they had to figure out, okay, for this particular activity that's come through from this tenant, which vendor has to be assigned first. They had to map these vendors to the actual requests that came in. So based on the category, etc., people had to manually determine which vendor was best suited. Once they did that, they might be 10 or 15 vendors they might have shortlisted, and then they have to figure out, for these vendors, have their insurance documentations been updated, have their warranty contracts been updated. So this is again a manual verification process that had to be done. And then there was also, once the work order was executed, they had to get feedback from their tenants. This is again a manual email interaction that had to be done. So there was a lot of siloed tools that they were using, a lot of interaction manually that had to be done. So what we were able to do was give them a portal for tenants to quickly raise activities, and based on the category of requests that came in, we are automatically able to assign it to a vendor using the vendor portal, and we were able to sort of integrate that information from Yardi. So we had the vendor database, and we're also able to automate that compliance check that needed to be done. So making sure that the insurance documentation was updated, making sure they had the relevant contracts, relevant certifications, safe work permits, things like that. And we're able to then assign that as a work order, manage that to resolution, have real-time notifications to their tenants who requested for it, saying it's being done on time, making sure SLAs were adhered to, and then the work was resolved. So this was the actual process that we implemented. So what did that enable, right? So looking at the before and after, before there was a real lack of visibility because I had to switch between multiple tools, and there was a lot of manual processes, and so collaboration was really hard. And the tenant satisfaction was also low because activities were stuck in this sort of approval middle state for a very long time before technicians were actually dispatched. So it took them a week for them to actually do this sort of manual process of vendor assignment, and therefore there was low tenant satisfaction. So what we were able to then enable was using this automation to dramatically improve the actual turnaround times for these activities, improve tenant satisfaction, give teams end-to-end visibility in terms of who's doing what, what's happening at site, which vendor is being assigned to this, and we're able to sort of just give them a better streamlined process. And the way we're able to do that again is through the workflow engine that we have. So we're able to sort of automate some of these transitions. So for example, the assigned transition here or the assigned work order here, which is then automatically based on the criteria that came in, we're able to automatically assign it. And then we're able to automate the checks that had to be done as well based on certifications and things like that. And then we're able to bring in visibility to their teams based on sort of categorizing these different activities like you're seeing here with vendors where insurance that's about to expire. So whenever that happened, we were able to send out notifications for them to upload their latest documentation, and we're able to manage their vendor activities and processes in a much more streamlined way. And we're able to improve compliance checks and things like that through reports and dashboards. So this is the next use case. This is going to be my last use case before we delve into the Q&A part of this session. And that is how a large owner operator was able to have better decision making and therefore improved and overall ROI, reduced energy costs, and improved energy performance at scale. And you can see that's enabled them to save a lot of reduction in terms of actual energy, and that translated to a huge savings in terms of a dollar impact. And the way we're able to do that is through the platform and through the combined capabilities of our IoT and our workflow engagement piece. So the process that was happening before, and this is something that a lot of people will associate with, is that every year there's a budget that is allocated for the maintenance operations, and teams have to then define where this budget is then used for. So which assets have to be refurbished, which assets have to be replaced, and so that they can maximize the use of that investment and maximize ROI. And for them to do that, they had to go through the BMS to identify what assets were behaving in a going into a fault mode a lot of times. What was the mean time between failure, mean time to repair, things like that. Then they had to go into the CAFM separate platform to figure out what the work orders are being generated. And then there was a separate ERP that kept a track of costs and upkeep costs. And so all of these different silo tools are being used by teams on the field to then give management teams reports and dashboards so that they can start making these decisions. So the process of decision making and the process of collecting this data from these different systems is really manual, and it was really difficult. And so what we were able to do then is first automate data collection through our IoT capabilities of the platform. And we are able to then automate the benchmarking and reporting in terms of performance KPIs for all of these assets at scale across the portfolio. We're able to then benchmark different properties against each other and give teams better visibility in terms of what assets have to be refurbished or replaced. And then we're able to use the MNB capabilities of the platform to then look at real-time ROI and look at real-time impact in terms of costs, and showcase that as dashboards and reports. So really that entire life cycle of asset management is sort of catered to within the platform. And so before the platform was sort of enabled, a lot of manual reports were being taken. Decision making was difficult because they had no visibility, and this was then translated to a lack of ROI, and management teams are really frustrated. So what we were able to then do was automate data aggregation by integrating with different systems, bringing in real-time data from their BMS, different energy meters, different systems on the field, and then automate reporting and benchmarking, and then helping drive better decision making, therefore better ROI. So how that looks like is something like this. So these are some of our asset performance dashboards where we're able to give them visibility in terms of what the upkeep cost is, what the overall asset health is, mean time between failure. All these KPIs are taken into account, and these are for one particular building. This then calculates what the worst performing assets are, and therefore these are the top 5 or the top 10 assets that have to be refurbished or fixed to get the maximum sort of ROI in terms of both maintenance and energy costs. And they're able to make these decisions much quicker. And as well, so like you saw within asset health, we're also able to give them better visibility in terms of their operations and maintenance side of things as well, in terms of what SLA adherence looks like, and we're able to then deploy resources on the field in an appropriate manner. So basically, over the last 4 use cases, we've talked about how the workflow automation capabilities can really improve visibility, reduce manual tasks, and therefore improve workforce efficiency, and therefore reduce costs at scale for O&M operations. So I think we're sort of going to get into the Q&A session. I'll hand it over back to our host, Vibha, and we can get into some of the challenges that you're facing currently and how we can help you solve them.
Yes, thank you so much, Vishak. I think that was a really great insight into what Facilio can do and all the different use cases that we've helped different companies solve. And I know that was probably a lot of information for everyone who's on the call today. So if you guys have any specific questions you would like to ask, or even anything on the information we've already shared, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A portal that we have right here. Great. So we have, okay, so I think Sheikh has a question for you, Vishak. And the question is, will Facilio be able to suggest or recommend different actions that can be taken? And I think, Sheikh, if you can be a little bit more specific on this, maybe I think it might have something to do with different decisions on operations and management, maybe asset health, perhaps. But yes, generally can Facilio recommend based on the data it's collected?
Yeah, absolutely. So, recommendations can be different things. One, like we saw in that vendor performance use case, what vendor has to be assigned to a particular work order and automating that. It can also be what decisions technicians have to be to sort of take on the field based on the issues that we detect from the underlying data that we're able to receive from the BMS, the energy management system, all the different data collection points that we have. So, using the FTD engine, using the intelligence that we have in the platform, technicians can have better visibility on what they have to do to fix that issue quickly, and therefore resolve these issues in a faster manner. And of course, on the other side of the fence, management teams can take better decisions in terms of identifying what has to be done on the field to start having the maximum impact in terms of cost. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Mohammed had earlier asked a question about how to learn about a software, regardless of me being a customer. I've added a couple of resources just to speak to a wider audience. So the best way is that's exactly why we also wanted to start this kind of a use case webinar where we, give a preview of our key product and platform capabilities for everyone to know before getting on a demo request or a prospecting call. That is one. And we also keep updating our resource library very often with common use cases and feature videos to help educate what are our key product platform capabilities. I've added some links and also to subscribe to our webinars, blogs, and all of the resources which will keep you updated about our software and how to proceed with that.
Thanks so much, Vaish. I hope that was helpful to you, Mohammed, and anybody else who had the same question. Vishak, we have another question from an anonymous attendee, but I think this question was useful to everyone. They ask, what kind of tools can Facilio completely replace, and what kind of tools will Facilio be able to integrate with? And also, what kind of functionalities are completely outside the scope of Facilio? So what can Facilio replace, integrate with, and what is Facilio not able to do? Yeah.
So I'll just quickly get back into that sort of architecture slide to give you a feel for the sort of scope of the Facilio platform itself, right? So Facilio being a platform and not a point solution is a sort of a key thing to sort of take away from this, is that different tools that are currently being used, that are currently siloed, It might be a sort of a portal for tenants to raise requests. It might be something to manage vendors. It can also be the actual energy management system that is being deployed. It can also be different ERPs that are being used right now to sort of integrate all this together. So Facilio can sunset all of these different systems, and customers can start using the modules within Facilio to enable all this. So really across O&M, I would say Facilio is that one platform that can do everything in a way that makes sense for different stakeholders within the sort of O&M space right now. So hopefully that sort of gives you an idea of what Facilio can do. But if you can see here within these different sort of layers of the platform, one thing that Facilio really helps enable is that sort of predictive mode of operations by identifying issues using the data-driven, using the IoT that we're able to gather the data from, and we're able to identify root cause analysis, we're able to identify cost impacts, and therefore translate that to faster methods of resolution of work orders, and identify better ways to spend money in terms of refurbishment or replacement. We're able to bring in all these stakeholders together through different portals, whether it's for vendors, for tenants, for the landlords that property management teams might be interfacing with. Then we're able to automate the processes that go behind managing all these people together, and also digitize the underlying assets, and therefore sort of the entire operations that might be going on right now can happen within Facilio. So we also sort of building out lease management capabilities as well. So that's another area that Facilio can sort of help solve.
Thank you, Vishak. We have a few more questions for you. The first one is, how do you quantitatively assign scores for assets? In the asset health, module, the use case that we had, we showed a screen where, we had an asset health column, which showed percentages. How do you say that one asset is performing better than the other? Is it just based on downtime, or are there other parameters that are taken into account?
Absolutely. So I think that's a really good question. So I'm just going to get into the product itself. I think this is going to help understand that a little bit better. So you can see here that we are benchmarking different properties, right? And one of the scores, like you saw, was asset health. And asset health is a KPI that is being defined within the platform. So we have a KPI builder that can take into account different variables and different sources of information to then calculate that particular score. So in this case, asset health was a combination of mean time between failure, mean time to repair, upkeep cost of that asset, the PM compliance for that particular asset. So all of these were the metrics that were taken into account, but it doesn't have to stop there. Based on the kind of portfolio that particular customer is operating, we can sort of customize these KPIs to make it really specific to your business case. So you can really benchmark different properties and get better visibility by sort of configuring the relevant KPIs and then sort of visualizing them in this way.
Thank you, Vishak. We have a question from Larry Barkley, and he asks, along with workflow automation as a platform, does Facilio potentially become the common user interface for the user? And I think here they mean all stakeholders, really, even the tenants, the occupants,
Yeah, so today's webinar was really focused on the workflow automation element. We just wanted to showcase the power of sort of adapting Facilio to different business processes that are there outside right now. But Facilio does have customer-facing portals sort of engage different stakeholders, whether it's sort of portfolio-wide view that I'm looking at right now with dashboards and reports for C-level executives, or if it is for the tenants or occupiers within the building, we have mobile applications and portals for them to engage within the platform, raise requests, view dashboards, do hot desking, hoteling, things like that. Then we also have portals for vendors and subcontractors to be brought into the system as well, for them to be able to do tasks quickly. We're able to then give FM teams visibility in terms of their SLA adherence and their KPIs. And of course, technicians on the field, so field service technicians can use mobile applications from Facilio as well. So really, we're able to bring in all these different stakeholders. We have applications for everyone. And then the sort of framework, the workflow automation element that you sort of saw over the webinar today sort of as a layer that sort of connects all of these different people and brings everybody together.
Yeah. Since collaboration has been a key theme across this and the previous webinars, we're planning to do one around stakeholder interactions and the different interfaces available probably in the next couple of months. And that's the people aspect is something that's always oft ignored in the current CMMS, right? CMMS is often also looked at as a technician only interface, but our leadership vision is also to make CMMS more multiple stakeholder friendly, have interfaces for vendors, tenants, clients, and also especially for leadership, like the decision makers who want visibility into what's happening across their portfolio.
Thanks, Vash. So, guys, do stay tuned for that upcoming webinar. We will of course be sharing communication regarding that soon. And yes, another question from Sheikh Vishak: is there a scope/functionality available for digital twinning of assets and property?
Yeah, so Facilio can act as that digital twin. We've also integrated with BIM models in the past to sort of overlay the real-time data with the actual building itself and visualize different aspects of KPIs like you're seeing here, but on top of a floor plan or the 3D model of that property. So a lot of these digital twin use cases can be achieved through the platform itself, and it can act as that sort of digital twin.
Awesome. Thank you, Vishak. And yes, we have one more question. So who creates these workflows really? Is it user driven, or can the supervisors and stakeholders create them? Does everyone need Facilio's help to create them, or can they do it themselves? How does it work?
Yeah, so creating workflows is really simple. Just give you a feel for it. If I get into the settings here and get into our workflow engine here, I'm just gonna give you one example, right? So this is a workflow for tenant to raise a request. Anybody can do this. It's just dragging and dropping different states and then building out this flow chart, and then defining, okay, once a technician clicks on the start work button, what should happen? It should be shown in the vendor portal if a vendor is doing this activity. What fields have to be updated, what notifications have to be sent out. So let's say once the start work button is clicked, you want an email to be sent out to the tenant who requested for this activity, and things like that. So building out these workflows is really simple. So what we would be doing is initially the professional services team of Facilio can build these workflows out, and then we can train you to be able to do this themselves. So teams within the organization can customize these workflows and sort of add additional steps to the process if required, or remove unnecessary steps. So we will give you the power to be able to do this yourself, but initially we can help you build this out at the first instance.
All right. So we don't have any more questions as of yet. Please feel free to ask any that you might have in mind. And now that Vishak has also shown you a glimpse of the product itself, if you guys would like to see anything more, please do ask in the question and answer box, and we'd be happy to get back to you.
We have a new question, Vibha.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we do have a new question. Thanks, Vash. So the question is, Vishak, how do you enable the root cause functionality as part of your system? Are there specific data relationship models that need to be set in place? And if yes, what are they? And do you do it, as in does Facilio do it on their end, or does it have to be set up beforehand? And can it be ingested into the system?
Right. Yeah. So multiple parts. I'll take it one step at a time. So the sort of root cause analysis is really driven by Facilio's data model, and the data model that we use is completely configurable, and we would just build a process, make it really specific to that property. So what that really does is associates assets to locations that they're serving. And we're also able to then keep a track of the underlying parent-child relationships between different assets. So if we know that, VAV is serving the space, that is that VAV is being served by this main AHU, which is then connected to these primary, secondary pumps, and that is then connected to the chiller boiler. Then the entire, the actual system itself, we're able to digitize that entire system. We're getting data points from all these different parts of that system, and we're able to understand, okay, this is relevant to this. So there is an issue that we detect, let's say an overcooling issue within a certain space. We can then identify that is because a cooling coil valve malfunctioned within that VAV unit that was serving that space, because we are able to identify the relationships between these different systems, and that is then tagged as that root cause, and that is then created as a work order and then assigned. So Facilio will be doing this sort of mapping these systems out and sort of building this data model. but it is again completely configurable like everything within Facilio. You can add additional attributes and sort of configure that, make it more specific. And the actual rule engine, the FDD rules that we create, these are also then, teams on the field can then build these rules out, add additional variables and additional components to it as well. So it really is an open platform to build out on. So initially we can do it within Facilio's team, and then we can expose that functionality to you and train your teams to be able to self-deliver as well.
Thank you for the answer, Vishak. We have one more question. Can Facilio integrate with existing CMMS systems? And there is a follow-up to this question by the same person. Are there specific standards like Haystack or Brick that Facilio follows?
Yeah. So a lot of times Facilio is being used as that sort of platform to make existing CAFM systems or CMS systems smarter. So we can definitely integrate with an existing system. A lot of times, for example, clients might use FSI or Maximo, and we would use the Facilio platform to start orchestrating automations in terms of workflows, bring in real-time IoT data, and sort of integrate with that system in that way. So yeah, definitely using APIs, Facilio can integrate with not just the CMMS, but really any system that's out there, and then bring these data sets in. So that is answer to the first question. It's the second question being Haystack or Brick. Facilio can do that as well. Since we have a configurable data model, we can sort of use Haystack as the schema, or it can be Brick or digital buildings or any other format of data that we want to ingest. So yeah, Facilio can sort of adapt to those as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Vishak. All right, we have Larry again telling us that this is all very impressive. But thank you so much, Larry, for your thoughts. This is great to hear from you. But yes, no more questions then, I suppose. If anybody does,
I just want to add to a couple of questions that Vishak already answered on, how does Fescue integrate with an existing CMS? Maybe Vishak can add some points on this. We actually have a lot of people who are logged in, like, on, say, what do you call it? I'm just losing it. Like logged in with a subscription with these, legacy or existing CMS CAFM products, and they want to choose Facilio because of its platform capabilities, but not able to do it. So these, a lot of customers, they, found ways to integrate our automation, IoT, or, all of these stakeholder layers on top of their existing CMS, and then found value in Facilio, and then moved eventually, spoke to the leadership teams to and convince them about the value that Facilio can bring about.
Yeah, so just to add on that, to give you a feel for some of the examples that we've had with existing clients. So we had, for example, a client who was using Maximo, and it took them a lot of time and effort to set up Maximo, and so they were little. They said that moving to Fescue might be difficult, even though they wanted to. They thought that it's going to take a lot of time and effort for them to be able to make that switch. So what we did was, in the short term, integrate with Maximo, started getting all the data set that was already there in Maximo within Facilio, and we sort of built Facilio out automatically as things were happening on the field. So there's not any manual effort required to actually build the platform out. And then teams are able to then make the switch seamlessly from Maximo over to Facilio. And in that sort of short term, Facilio was being used as the platform to make Maximo smarter by integrating using the IoT layer that you're seeing here, doing root cause analysis, adding that to the work orders. And then slowly people saw the value in Facilio, and then sunset Maximo and sort of went into Facilio fully. So these are just some of the use cases and examples in terms of how clients are using, integrating with different systems, and then moving over to Facilio in the longer term.
Awesome.
all right then.
Yeah, so I think we are near wrap up time, Vibha.
Yes. All right. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and show you guys one last slide, which is our contact slide. So for those of you who would, of course, like to reach out to us, post this session, perhaps for a demo, we have, oops, did I share the wrong screen? It looks like I did. Well then, let me just stop sharing for a minute. But yes, we do have a contact us slide where I will be showing you exactly whom you can reach out to specific to your region. And of course, then be able to fix up a demo perhaps, and convey any particular use cases that you might have or business cases you might have that you think Facilio can really help out with. So that is right here for you. I hope this is visible. And in case you guys have any other queries, feel free to, of course, reach out to us, even through our website, and we'd be happy to get back to you. On that note, I think we can draw the session to a close. And I hope you guys all had fun, because I certainly learned a lot in this session, and I hope we were able to shed some light onto some ways in which Facilio can really help streamline O&M processes overall in the prop tech space.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vibha. Great hosting.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Vaish. Thanks, Vibha.
Thanks, Vishak.
Thanks, Vishak. Thanks, Vaish.
Thank you so much for joining. See you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.